live from the Average Joe Nation studios in St. Clair, Missouri. This is the Average Joe Podcast, a show that proves that in this crazy world, a combination of common sense and a C-plus average is actually a superpower. Sure, he's crazy, but what if he's right? Please welcome your host, Damon Gilbert.
You know, sometimes you can get kind of distracted when things are going on around you. I don't know if you know how that works, but it does. And I did that yesterday. I unfortunately forgot to include the audio track on my last episode, which was really brilliant on my website. But I've never claimed to be a genius, and when it comes to the minute details, sometimes I fail on that. I mean, I don't know if you're like that, but I am big time. And I will even write a list of things that I need to check off. I don't know if you're like that, but I am. I'll say to myself, okay, I'm going to write a list, and I'm going to check off each one of these things. And then in my mind, instead of checking it off, I'll say, okay, well, that's taken care of. And then later on, I'll find out it's not. Same thing here. I was a bit distracted yesterday. We had some work going on here at the house, and I guess I forgot it. But anyway, it's all up to date now if you want to listen to yesterday's. If not, we'll just move along and act like it didn't happen. How about that? So I watched a documentary last night. It was called A British Horror Story. It was about Jimmy Savile, I guess is how you say it. I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but Jimmy Savile, I believe it's Jimmy Savile. Yeah, he was a British personality. He was a disc jockey from Britain. He was born in 1926, so he was fairly old when, rock and roll and everything, and that took off. But nonetheless, he was able to work his way up through the hierarchy of important people in Britain. And he was kind of like, I guess you would call him, he did a lot of charity work. He had a show from 1975 to 2007. It was called Jimmy'll Fix It. And it was basically granting wishes to children. What they would do is they would write in letters to the show, and he would pick a couple out and see if he couldn't fulfill the wish that they wanted. And it was kind of sweet. It really was. But I got to tell you, well, and also he was he hosted the show Top of the Pops, it would be similar to, she called it American Bandstand. I mean, he was the equivalent of the British Dick Clark, if you want to get right down to it. And then throw in a whole bunch of charity work that he did, and he gave away, he raised millions of dollars for hospitals. Yeah, he raised one for I'm not going to go through the whole show, but here at the bottom line here is this guy. He was creepy looking. Don't get me wrong. If you ever want to look him up, just look up Jimmy Savile and a British Horror Story. You will understand what I'm talking about. Do you remember Marty Feldman? He played Igor on Young Frankenstein. He had a disorder of vision. It was called strabismus, I guess it is. And he also had Graves' disease, where his eyes would go in different directions, and they were real buggy. You remember him, Marty Feldman? He was a comedian, a British comedian. And that's kind of what this guy looked like. And at one point, he had blonde hair, and he was just creepy looking. He gave me the creeps just watching him on TV, and I didn't even I knew something about the story, but not the nitty gritty, really ugly stuff. And I didn't know how he got to the position he was in. But it was really interesting because it kind of goes in concert with what goes on in the United States and in any country as far as popularity and influence and power. It really does. And it's really interesting because this guy had no political aspirations whatsoever. He was friends with, he was one of these guys where they called him a national treasure. They really did. He raised, I think, $10 million in 3 weeks for a particular hospital that he was building. He actually worked there. He was really to look at it with hindsight, you say to yourself, well, that should have given it away. Because, I mean, this guy was molesting children on a regular basis. They say that they figure, now he died prior to having any charges filed against him. There was an investigation about 3 years prior to his death, and he denied all accusations, all charges. He said he did nothing wrong. Now, mind you, this guy's never had a girlfriend. Could never, ever name someone that he saw as his girlfriend. Never been married. Had a overbearing mother. There was a lot of investigation into that. There was some talk about homosexuality, which neither here nor there. It doesn't matter if you're homosexual. If you're molesting children, I don't care what version you are. You're an evildoer. There's no doubt about it. And they'd heard rumors about this for years and years and years, and no one ever acted on it. It was kind of similar to the priesthood, kind of the Catholic Church scandal, where people are so devout, so wrapped up in someone, and they just can't believe that this would be true. When a child comes forward and says, hey, he did such and such to me, or he made me do such and such, they just dismiss it. And they did that. They constantly did that for this guy, this Jimmy Savile. And the funny thing is, he was friends with very, very powerful people, and that's one of the reasons he got away with this. He was really good friends with Margaret Thatcher, who was Prime Minister of Britain. He was friends with Prince Charles, friends with Diana. The Queen actually knighted him, so it was actually Sir Jimmy Savile. I mean, that's unheard of, and it took an overwhelming effort by Margaret Thatcher to get him knighted. And yet, the dark side of this was he was molesting children in hospitals. That's why he worked in the hospitals. It gave him access to these kids. It's one of the sickest things you've ever heard in your life. It really is. I had no idea. I knew that he was involved. I remember the name. I don't pay a lot of attention to British politics or British, entertainment. I don't care. It bores me. I don't like their versions of it. But nonetheless, I did know about this guy. And if you haven't, you really need to look into it. This guy was a creepoid. He really was. And he used his power and his influence and people he knew. Everybody looked the other direction. And the weird thing is, guys, this guy used to admit that he did these things in public, which is even weirder. And the public just ate it up. They really did. And I know I'm getting to a point here. I'm getting to a point, and this is a long way to get there, but I want you to understand how creepy these people are. This guy was beyond creepy, and he's the kind of guy I guarantee if you saw him on the street, you would go to the other side of the street, or you would walk the other direction. I mean, he is a weirdo, and you've met him, you've seen him on the streets. Just turn around and walk the other way. No, you don't want anything to do with him. That's this guy. Now, he would literally admit that he molested children on the air. He would say something, and a reporter would ask him, so what do you do in your spare time, Jimmy? Because we're so excited we're getting to interview him. And he'd say, well, I chase little girls around the house. And then I have to run. I have to leave the town because the fathers, the brothers, and the uncles are mad at me. And then everybody in the crowd would laugh. And the funny thing is, he was telling the truth. He was laying it out there. He was being completely honest, and nobody was catching on. It's really wild. It really is. Now, the point that I'm trying to make is these people, like Jimmy Savile or Savile or whatever his name is, they now going back to the story, they never caught him. He never did any time for this. He died prior to the investigation. The investigation started about a year after his death. And then everyone came forward because people he had molested. Now, mind you, he had molested, they figure, between 400 and 600 people. Children, mind you. By himself, 400 to 600. Anywhere from the ages of 5 up to 75 years old. Now, this would be, obviously adult women who were in the hospital that he was taking advantage of. They actually had a story of one who had brain damage. He was molesting in front of the nurses. Yeah, and the British just ate this guy up. They loved him. No one would believe this. No one. Well, fast forward, or let's go across the pond to the United States and Canada and anywhere you want to go. Anywhere you want to go. Jeffrey Epstein, okay? Jeffrey Epstein, a horrible, horrible human being, right? This kind of stuff goes on in the United States on a daily basis. Our children are at risk, and they are the powers in this country, the powerful people, are demented to a level you can't even imagine. I mean, you really can't. I can't even imagine this. I mean, I literally had to cringe when they would say some things on TV last night that I was watching this documentary, because you can't imagine a child going through that. You really can't. But we've got people in power today, and people in power in the past, who have been in this world, and today they're still in this world. This world exists everywhere. Don't let your radar go down, okay? Jeffrey Epstein, for instance, had the Lolita flight, the Lolita, where he would fly members of Congress and presidents, ex-presidents, I mean, you name it, to an island, and they would have sex or molest or whatever they do to children, basically. Kids, girls, young girls, underage girls. That's what he did. That's what he did. And, actually, and then whatever they do, they bring the hammer down on him, and they kill him in prison, which is absolutely what happened. Don't let anybody kid you. That guy did not commit suicide. And what's funny is the only thing we're worried about is that he did this, not who his customers were, which I find is just amazing. And the reason it is for the very same reason that Jimmy Savile got away with this, because of the powerful and who they know. And I know this isn't news to anyone, but it's something that we really need to think about, because it can be in your own neighborhood, your own city, your own town. It can be there, because if your radar goes off that this guy's a creep, or even a woman for that matter, don't ignore that, okay? Do not ignore that, whatever you do. These people are everywhere. They're everywhere, and do not give them access to anything you care about, because they will take it. They have no conscience. I mean, think about Bill Clinton, for instance, President of the United States, took advantage of an intern that worked for him. He could have had any woman he wanted in the world, and probably has, for that matter. But he thought it would be better to hit on a 20-year-old girl that was an intern that worked for him. What kind of a sick mind is that? And this guy's not up on any charges. He's raped women. He has. There's no doubt about it. Ask Juanita Broderick, who has since been banned from Twitter because she brings this up all the time. Yeah. The powerful, you have to be really careful with these people. You have to. And so ultimately what I'm getting at here is, when you see Joe Biden, you see a creepy old man. There's no doubt about it. He's the kind of guy you would not want to keep your children overnight. And this is the guy that's in charge of the United States right now. How he got there, it's all sideways. It's all hinkied. You know what I mean? We are going to pay a huge price for this. But at the end of the day, I want everybody to understand, I have no problem saying this guy's a pervert. I really don't. Joe Biden is a sexual pervert. God only knows what he's actually done in his life. Put aside Hunter Biden, who I guarantee you the apple don't fall far from the tree. So if you think he just dreamt this stuff up on his own, you're crazy. No, that's a DNA defect, in my opinion. Yeah, Joe married his babysitter, and I know I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it a million more. There's nothing good that comes from that story. Nothing. You can never say that I married my babysitter and we lived happily ever after. No, No, that doesn't work that way. That doesn't work that way. What you're telling me is that you had a relationship with your babysitter while you were still married to your wife. That is it in a nutshell. So what that means is he was having sex with Jill when she was 17 or 18 years old. And he's probably in his early 30s. That is wrong. And then you go down to Tara Reid, someone who worked for him that he molested, and he turned around and after he'd grabbed her by the crotch, which apparently that's what everybody's so upset about when it comes to Trump, when he said grab him by the poussoir, right? Okay? But Joe does it. Joe does it, and never a question about it. Dismissed like it never even happened. No, we didn't look into it, nothing. Tara Reid's been pushed to the side. She has. Now, God only knows what this guy's done. God only knows what Joe Biden's done. Think about it. Think about it. You think this is a isolated incident? Of course not. This guy did this all the time. He's a creep. And then move on to the way he treats young girls that he doesn't know. And there are countless videos of him being inappropriate with little girls. I tell you, if the devil is not in charge of DC right now, he's missing a perfect opportunity to take over. He really is. This is inexcusable what's being allowed to go on in this country anymore. And no one says a word about it because he's just like Jimmy Savile. He has power, he has influence. No one's going to say a word about it. If me or you do that, we'd be up on charges. But Joe, not only is he demented, he is sexually deviant. He's a sexual deviant. The kind that you would not want to touch anything you cared about. That is horrible. That says everything you need to know about the United States at this point. And you remember Ping Pong Pizza? That story about child trafficking and child torture that the Clintons were involved in, and how the Democrats always went to this one pizza place. Yeah, look into that. They tried to blow that off as a conspiracy theorist. It's not. That actually took place. I've seen video of in the interior of that place, and it's the creepiest stuff you've ever seen in your life. And then Podesta's brother, I think, what's his name? Oh, I won't even get into that. That Podestas they're the most demented people I've ever seen. And if you think of Barack Obama and these creeps are not involved in this, you're kidding yourself. You are kidding yourself. Barack Obama was directly involved in this. He had access. I don't know if he likes little girls or little boys or what his story is, but that guy is evil as they come. And I know some people are going to say, "Oh, that's crazy." No, it's not. It's not. These people they're creepy. When you see them on TV, I get a strange feeling inside me, like you can see the evil just oozing out of these people's pores. And America's in a lot of trouble right now. We've got some of the creepiest people on the planet in charge of the country, and I don't know where it's going to go. I really don't. But all I can say is this: keep your radar up, because these people are in your community. These people may even be in your families. So, again, it's not something that a person wants to think about. There's an old saying that it's easier to keep a big secret than it is a little secret. Okay, little secrets get out. Little secrets, people will find out about those. The big secrets are easier to keep, and you want to know why? Because nobody wants to hear about it. Incredulity is basically what it boils down to. It's so horrible you don't want to know about it, so they get away with it. That's how it works. And believe me, it works that way in the United States and in your community. It really does. So anyway, if you get a chance, be sure and if you can stomach it. It tells you everything you need to know about the way the world works. It really does. This guy is one creepoid. So if you get a chance, it's called Jimmy Savile, A British Horror Story. It's on Netflix. And I can't believe it's on Netflix. And it's like Netflix is one of the most evil broadcasting things there is. I mean, the Obamas are on the board. I mean, the stuff that they put out, Netflix does, is just terrible. It's horrible what they do. But anyway, they put this Jimmy Savile documentary on there, which I find, I don't know if it's an in-your-face thing, like, ha ha, we got away with it kind of thing. I don't know. But it just gives you an idea how creepy these people are. So if you get a chance, check that out. That's all I got today. I know that wasn't exactly the most upbeat podcast of all time, but I had to tell you that. I looked at that last night and I saw that and I was like, oh my God. And it just tells you everything you need to know. So anyway, I'll be right back. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. And I apologize for yesterday of not having the audio on that. I'm going to make a list and I'm going to try and stick to it. You know what I mean? All right. Well, we'll be right back with the news.
If you think he's crazy, then what do we consider the rest of the world? You're listening to the Average Joe Podcast with Damon Gilbert.
All right. The first story is about Walt Disney Company. Now, this is the same company who's fighting they're seeking to repeal the state's anti-grooming parental rights in education law, which I am 100% for. Parents should have every right to decide what's taught to their children. But the funny thing is, they're not mentioning a thing about this lockdown in Shanghai. Now, Shanghai is part of China. It's one of their larger cities. They are 100% locked down right now. People are actually starving in their own apartments. They can't get food. Chinese government doesn't care. Guess what's located in Shanghai? Disney World, China. Okay, they spent, $3 billion on that thing, and they're losing money. And they have the audacity to talk about this anti-grooming law in Florida, but not say a word, not a single word about the Shanghai workers. Unbelievable. That just goes to show you what these people think about. They don't care about anybody. It's all about money. It's always been about money. Yeah, it always has been. I mean, you'd be silly to think that it wasn't. But it just amazes me that they can contrast these two things. They can mention this Florida law, but not say a word about the Chinese government locking down their employees. 10,000 of them. 10,000 employees live in Shanghai that work at Walt Disney in China, and not a word about it. We wouldn't want to piss off the Chinese, God forbid. Let's see. Trump weighs in on Ukraine. He calls, and I got to tell you, sometimes Trump really disappoints me. He really does. He calls Russian actions genocide. Now, he did that on Sean Hannity's show last night. And Sean just went on without saying anything about it. I'm sure he didn't want to elaborate on that. What's Trump thinking? He doesn't know if this is all genocide. He doesn't know anything about this. He doesn't have any idea if the stories are true. Why would you go out and say something so stupid? I sometimes I wonder about him. I really do. I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for him in 2024 if he runs, but I don't know. There are times when I think it'd probably be best if he didn't. I really do, because at the end of the day, even if he would win, I think it would be great, because it would piss off the left so bad they wouldn't know what to do. Problem is, you're going to spend another 4 years of nothing getting done. Nothing. Because they will be in constant attack mode to try and take him down once again. That's what they're going to do. I just don't think it's such a good idea. And with statements like this, I don't know. Maybe he's getting older. Maybe he just doesn't care anymore. But to say that Russia is committing genocide when we don't say a word about invading a country that we do, well, nobody says a word. Why use the word genocide? That's not smart. I'm not a big fan of that, and I think that was a mistake. I was never a Trump acolyte. He can do things wrong, and he's not the sharpest when it comes to politics. And I don't know if he doesn't take direction well or what the problem is. But saying something like that is going to come back and haunt you. I guarantee it will. I guarantee it. There's not going to be any getting around this. You can't go out and say something like that without somebody mentioning it a year from now or 2 years from now. Okay? This is not going to work. It's just not. That was stupid. And I think he's going to regret that. So let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, second second Texas bus drops off migrants near the U.S. Capitol in D.C. I tell you, you got to hand it to this Abbott. Greg Abbott, he's going about this the right way. He really is. He's dropping these people off right on the basically the U.S. Capitol's front steps, and he's making it sound like he's making it handier for the U.S. government and the Biden administration to take care of these people because he's bringing them to you. You can't argue with that. He dropped off a dozen more, I think, about 4:30 a.m. Thursday. So it must be working because they've stopped dropping migrants off in Texas cities around the state, where the federal government was just bringing them in and turning them loose. So I guess that's a pretty good strategy. I don't know how well it's going to work. I mean, you're going to have to do more than take a dozen up there. You're going to have to take thousands up there to make any difference. But I guess at the end of the day, it's not a bad idea. Now they're trying to claim that he's breaking law. And the funny thing is about this, these group of migrants that you're looking at, and if you notice this, because it's kind of interesting, you never see any women or children. Do you notice that? They're usually young men they're dropping off. I've seen it time and time again. Anytime you see someone getting off a bus or loading onto a bus, it's usually young men that are leaving. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know that that's really what we've been told was the reason for this. They keep telling me these stories about children, and a better life, and and I never see any. And I see a couple coming across maybe the Rio Grande, but at the end of the day, when they get into these camps and stuff, all you see are young men. Oh, I find that odd. And they're usually from, these migrants that they dropped off are from Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Colombia. Okay? So they're not exactly all Mexicans. So these people are coming all the way through Mexico. Mexico's letting them come through. Yeah, I there's ways to fight this, but I'm not in charge. So let's see. Oh yeah, Biden's polls are. Mr. Joe took a huge hit this week. I think his approval rating sank to a new low of 33%. Now that was 33% approved of Biden's handling as a president. Now this is overall. This was all of the things, inflation, the economy, Russia, all that. All added together, and they had the average 33% approved of Biden's handling, while 54% disapproved. That's horrible. That is a disaster for a presidency. And there's no coming back from this. There really isn't. I've watched politics enough to know, with the way that it's one thing if you're at 33% and the economy's starting to come back, and maybe there aren't any wars, and some of these issues are actually addressed. Okay, crime, southern border, your supply chain, which is not fixed by any stretch of the imagination. Don't let anybody kid you. That is not fixed. It is set for a disaster. Oh my God. All of those. If you're addressing those things, price of gas, that kind of thing. If you can actually show some headway, you've made some headway on this, 33% wouldn't be the end of the world because you're working on it, and he's not working on any of this stuff, none of it. I don't know what this guy does all day. He goes out and signs a bill on ghost guns the other day. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, that's really a big deal. I'm so excited. The ghost guns, that's going to stop crime completely. Guys, don't you know? Aren't you paying attention? Ghost guns. I had to look up what a ghost gun was. I understand it now, but it's not like it was the top of my list on stuff. The top of my list is going up and filling up my car, and it costing me more than it costs to go out and have dinner, at a fancy restaurant. That's my biggest problem. Yeah. Not to mention the fact we've got, crime is endless. We've got zombies walking around the streets. Nobody's addressing that. Homeless are everywhere. I don't want to go on a rant here, but we got a lot more things to worry about than ghost guns. Yeah. Or whether the dog bit a Secret Service guy. We can't even get that right. The funny thing about this administration, I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again today. They have no sense of humor. They literally don't. That bird shit on Joe the other day. You had a perfect opportunity to show some humility, some humor. Make a joke out of it. Own it. Own up to it. Admit it. And just go with the flow. But you can't do it. Got to lie about it. Got to lie about it with a straight face, with no smile on your face. That redheaded broad, Psaki, she is the worst press secretary in American history. I cannot believe. The worst people are in any position are running this country right now. His entire cabinet is totally incompetent. You've got a vice president that slept her way to the top. It's the only way she got anywhere she's at. And here we sit with a decrepit demented old man running the show. Well, he's not running the show. It's obviously behind the scenes. But the point is these people are the dumbest people I've ever met. You can't even own up to this stuff. You can't. And make a joke out of it. It amazes me. The worst presidency in American history. I say it over and over again, and it's true. Next story is Elon Musk makes $43 billion offer to buy Twitter. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not an Elon Musk fan, and believe me, I have no idea how this is going to work, and I have no idea what the ultimate goal he has, but I guarantee you it's not for the betterment of mankind. It's not. This guy is a fraud. I've said it from the beginning, and eventually it's going to catch up with him. It's kind of like this Jimmy Savile. I mean, we just the idolization of this clown, it amazes me. Yeah, he's made some money. He's made a lot of money. They say he's the richest man on the planet. So, I don't really care. The way he's made it is underhanded. It's not from actually producing anything. Tesla, fine. He's got a car company, big damn deal, and he's got all this other stuff going on, and none of it's successful. Okay, they say that about Trump, about his casinos and all that. But when he shut those down, he started up another project. Okay, he's not Donald Trump. Granted, he is the richest man in the world. I mean, as far as assets or whatever, I'm no fan of his. So when he offers $43 billion offer to buy Twitter, I'm all for it. I agree with it. I think it's a great idea. I'm just very suspicious of this clown. He's a weirdo. Again, I go back to the Jimmy Savile thing. That guy gives me the creeps. I would not let him watch my kids for the weekend. Not Elon Musk, not a chance. Okay? So if this all works out, I'll admit I was wrong, and I hope it works out. I really do, because it would be great to see Twitter be an open and free a platform where Trump and everyone can come back and a free speech a platform for around the world. It would be great. But I don't trust this guy at all. Okay, let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Transgender prisoners in a jail in New Jersey, I think it was. Yeah, Edna Mahan Correctional Facility. Okay, apparently impregnated two women inmates. So I don't know about the biology thing that the Supreme Court justice was talking about. She's not a biologist and everything. She can't really describe what a woman is. Well, I guarantee you throw a couple of men into a prison full of women, somebody's going to get knocked up. So this is the kind of stupidity that we're dealing with right now in the United States. Yeah, all female jail had two guys in it. That's genius, if you ask me. Let's see. Oh yeah, shoppers in San Francisco. And believe me, if anything's going to take down Nancy Pelosi, it's going to be stuff like this. They say right now that San Francisco voters are looking for a change, and I don't blame them, okay? Because nearly this outraged shopper was complaining that nearly every item in San Francisco Walgreens is now under lock and key. That's because they're stealing. That's because the masses are stealing in San Francisco. Crime is rampant in these big cities, and they're getting away with it. There's no payback. There's no charges brought against them. Yeah. What do you expect? If there's no ramifications for your actions, you're going to continue to do it, and it's just going to get worse. So, hey, as far as I'm concerned, San Francisco, you elected that broad. You can live with it. That's the way I look at it. Let's see. Secret Service agents are knocking Psaki Psaki for her response to the attacks by the Biden's dog in emails. And I think this is hilarious. She apparently Major, one of their stupid German shepherds, what did she say? She said, I believe her response was that the dog was, what was it? He was surprised by a stranger. And we're seeing emails here that saying he wasn't surprised by like she called it an unfamiliar person and reacted in a way that resulted in a minor injury to the individual. Well, it just so happens it was a Secret Service guy that's there all the time. Yeah, the dog apparently has caught the psycho virus from Joe. Yeah, so you're going to have to put him down, which is what you should do to Joe. You should put him out to pasture. So, let's see. Oh, yeah, the subway shooting suspect. He's going to face terrorism charges. Now, I don't know that you'll see this on mainstream media because this does not fit the narrative at all, okay? This guy is a black supremacist. This guy hates white people. He's posted on Facebook that he thought 9/11 was the happiest day of his life, is what he said. Yeah. He says that all whites should die. Just he goes on and on. He's a lefty. He's a Trump hater. And my God, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. But they are going to charge him with terrorism. So that's good. That's good. I mean, that's something. Now, we'll just see if you hear anything about it on mainstream media, because I got a feeling you won't. Okay? I got a feeling they will take this and spin it to sound like Trump caused it. That's what will happen. Yeah. Let's see. The last one here is Kentucky lawmakers override governor's veto of pro-life bill. Now, this governor from Kentucky is an idiot. Okay, Andy Beshears, he vetoed this bill, and Kentucky House of Representatives overturned it because they're saying that there's no reason not to have this, and I think it's a 15-week. You can't have an abortion after 15 weeks. Okay, and I agree with that 100%. I really do. At the end of 15 weeks, you should be able to make a decision on what you're going to do. That's almost 4 months old. You're killing a person when you do that. And this chicken shit governor, he thought it'd be a good idea to veto it. I have no sympathy for these people. You need to get rid of these people. That's what we need to do immediately. Vote them out. No ifs, ands, or buts. If your state rep or your state senator is a POS and he's a chicken shit, then I suggest we vote him out. That's the only way you're going to solve this stuff. Because just because he's your guy from your state, that doesn't make him a good guy. It doesn't. It doesn't. And I say that about anybody from my state. And I agree with some of the stuff they've done here in the past. But at the end of the day, if you don't do it the way we want it, you need to go. So that goes for every position in political power, as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, well, that's all I got today. Again, thank you for listening, and we will talk again tomorrow. Hopefully I'll put the audio on this one so you can hear it, since it is a podcast. I'll do my utmost, all right? And it is April 14th, and Joe Biden is by far the worst president ever to set foot in the White House. Let's go, Brandon.